Hi everyone. I'll be speaking to you today around digital literacy and Dell education. My name is Katina Popolkas and I am the education strategist for Dell Technologies. My role is to support K-12 school districts and post-secondary institutions with student-centered learning and how technology can amplify their experience and learning. In this session today, we'll be chatting about the trends we see across the country, the 4 components of digital literacy, and then finish up with a call to action for 2021. So this is what my life usually looks like. As the education strategist, I travel from the Atlantic provinces to the west coast of BC. You'd usually find me in the airport as I'm going from province to province, talking with all of our school districts, all of the different post-secondary institutions, and really trying to support them with the learning at a student-centered in the student-centered space. Now, this is what my role looks like. So I'm still doing the travel across the country, but it's in a virtual way. A little bit different, definitely rely on building relationships in a different way, but still having that same opportunity to impact. And the one thing that I've recognized throughout the last number of months is we are all in this together, but we are experiencing it in different ways, and we have to recognize that. Many of us are on the journey up this snow-covered hill, and some of us are at different stages of reaching the top of it. But along the way, we recognize that the sun is there is hope in sight, and we have to be thinking about that. At the same time, however, if we go to the research, if we go to the CAMH site, they have a dashboard that they're updating throughout this time, and we really have to recognize and acknowledge what is happening with people in terms of mental health and wellness. So whenever we're chatting with anyone from students to faculty to leadership, everybody's experiencing this situation in different ways, and we really have to be supportive and kind. And especially if we look at the top graph on the left, according to ages, the 18 to 39-year-olds are really having a much greater impact in this area. And then in terms of gender, it's definitely women who are feeling it a little more challenging during this time. So let's just recognize that and make sure we're showing compassion, kindness, and grace. So with that, I always ask people, how are you feeling today? And it's okay if it's not a great day today. We're just glad that you're here. And if you can just enter into the chat, how are you feeling? Which emoticon identifies with how you are feeling today? So you can put that in the chat. Thank you. And so I know a lot of us can't wait for 2020 to be over and welcome in the new year, but at the same time, there are ways that we can finish strong and really make sure that we can do the best for our students and ourselves as we move. So as I do my travels across the country virtually, the trends that I'm seeing across the country really center around 3 different pillars. Equity is number 1 and leading everything. Student engagement is another one. And if we can address equity and engagement, it can really help us reach that 3rd pillar of transformation. And I want to look at all of these pillars through the lens of digital literacy, because if we address a digital literacy piece, it can really help us focus in on equity, focus in on engagement, and help that transformative piece. So my first question to you is, what does digital literacy mean to you? So I'd like you to enter into the chat your definition of digital literacy. So digital literacy can mean many different things, and all of them are right. When we start to unpack digital literacy, it can mean several overlapping things, and it's more than just technology know-how, but it's how to act responsibly within the norms of different technology. So if we think about it, it could be web and media literacy, cyber literacy, really understanding privacy and security issues and making sure you're aware of them. Data literacy, what are the numbers? Where are they going? Where is data being hosted? How is it being used? And hardware literacy, basically how things work. And there are more on top of that, but those are the ones that we're going to focus on today. But the question I want to ask is, who is responsible for this digital literacy? Now, oftentimes we say, well, it should go to the CIO of a district or an institution. But oftentimes we don't find leadership of IT really going in to the teaching and learning side of the house. Well, what about an IT manager? Same sort of response. It's not often that we see the IT folks going to teaching and learning. So let's go over to administrators. And then we have the administrators. They have the opportunity in a leadership role to encourage digital literacy, but they are expecting the educators to do it. Now, the educators, either the teachers in K-12 or the faculty members in post-secondary, they're saying, well, I've got to cover my course curriculum. I don't have time to address digital literacy. And the parents are thinking, well, it should be happening at school, so I don't have to worry about digital literacy. So oftentimes it gets left to a teacher librarian, both at K-12 as well as post-secondary, but they don't really see the students that often. So that means we really are not sure who should actually be taking care of it, but we do recognize that all of us have to be responsible for it. So somehow we have to build in that every single one of us in all of our roles have to address digital literacy. And that includes the students. They hold a responsibility as well in this area. So how can we all be co-agents of digital literacy? Well, if we think about it this way, if we take an approach with 4 different areas, that digital literacy can be collective, pervasive, inclusive, and then activist. So let's start with the first one. So we've already spoken a bit about this, but we all share in the collective responsibility to ensure that every student can thrive in their digital future. And if we don't, we risk the continued marginalization of students, families, and citizens if digital literacy is not a priority. When digital literacy is isolated into different pockets, it runs the risk of being less meaningful. Digital literacy skills are the life skills that complement and extend skills and knowledge taught across subject areas. And we need to start with the knowledge, understanding, and skills that teachers already aspire to foster in young people and weave digital literacy skills throughout the journey. It needs to be in the DNA of all that we do and teach. We also need to understand the importance of shifting the conversation on digital literacy from a reactive posture to a proactive one. But how can we be proactive in a world that is moving so quickly? So instead of focusing on the don'ts or the ante, digital literacy should be empowering. And finally, if we agree that technology is indispensable, then being able to access digital world is a basic right. Being digitally literate plays a fundamental role in realizing economic opportunities and social inclusion. If there's a lack of it, it can be a force for perpetuating and exacerbating inequities. And with these 4 areas, we call this the new digital literacy. And when we focus on equity and engagement through digital literacy, we can work towards transformation. So let's dig into each one of these and start with the collective. As mentioned, we are all responsible for digital literacy. And as we've seen this shift from the on-site classroom to the online world, we recognize that our educators need a lot of professional learning to support them in this shift. So when we look at an on-site transition model, on the left-hand side, we have a teacher-centered classroom, those who are in transition, and then over to a student-centered classroom. This is what's happening in the on-site space when students attend school, and we can see that journey that everybody is working towards. It is the same in the online world. So as we've shifted from the on-site to the online world, we need to support our educators as they try to move from a teacher-centered online experience to more of a student-centered one. And to do that, we really need to support them with professional learning. But what does that professional learning look like? Well, we have three buckets that we can address here. On the left-hand side would be just a one-off, so like a webinar of some sort. Something like this, basically something to increase your awareness of a particular topic. Now, as you can see from the graph, by attending one of these webinars, there is no shift in practice and there's no impact to student learning. If we go to the middle bucket where we have professional development, that could be a series of webinars and sessions that a teacher or a faculty member attends. There could be a change in practice, but as you can see, there is no impact to student learning. Where we see the greatest professional growth is where the educator has an opportunity to participate in an ongoing professional learning experience. So that could be daily conversations, coaching opportunities, opportunities to journal and reflect on their shift towards a student-centered model. And by doing that on a very regular basis, you can see that there is a shift to the practice as well as an impact to student learning. And that's where we see the greatest growth. Now, our team on the Dell education side, we started with those webinars. Soon after the shift and move to home happened, for both K-12 as well as post-secondary, we were putting up the webinars, just that initial increase the awareness. But now, as we're moving forward, we recognize that importance of really making sure there are two sides to it, that we have the teaching and learning, focusing on the learning in the online space, as well as those skills, the how-to, so that educators feel comfortable in the space that they are using. Having the two types of learning together helps impact student learning on the whole. So we're focusing on the how-to as well as the why-to. And this is what we've been trying to address with all of our districts and post-secondary across the country, as well as North America. And by addressing it in this way, we've really been trying to reduce and narrow that digital literacy gap, because we recognize that for those teachers and faculty members who are comfortable in this space, their students are getting a very different experience than for those people who are just starting out on their journey. So we want to make sure that we address those folks who do need that support and offer that professional learning as needed. And as we address an equity issue, we increase student engagement and allow for that transformation, which is what we want to have. Now, if we move on to the next digital literacy topic of being pervasive, let's talk about that. If we embed digital literacies throughout all parts of our schools and our institutions, it will make a big difference. Oftentimes, we find that there's one or two classrooms or faculties that really embrace digital learning and digital literacy. And that's how we get those pockets of innovation. If we really want to make sure it's an equitable experience for all of our students, we need to make sure that digital literacy is throughout all parts of the schools, from the institutions, from the offices, the administration, IT, everybody is included in it. And we all recognize the need and importance of it. Something that we've been doing at Dell as an example is Tech Direct. Tech Direct is an online program. Now, initially, this was only available to IT folks. So when they work with Dell, they have the opportunity to become trained and certified in Dell technologies. Well, we're now offering it to students and faculty as well. This means that students and faculty and any educator interested can take a series of 12 courses that are online. It takes about 6 hours, but it really takes you through device literacy and understanding how your computer works. And in doing this, it empowers anyone who takes these courses to really understand how their device works, especially now when many students are off-site and families are finding it a challenge if something doesn't work. There's an opportunity to become more literate in this way. Furthermore, another benefit is if you successfully complete the exams as part of the courses, you become certified for 2 years as a Dell Tech Direct person. So talk about authentic learning. Now we have students who have the opportunity to have real world learning, have a certification, not having to wait to graduate from either high school or post-secondary, and they have this opportunity to already have an authentic certification. And here's an example. A grade 7 student of ours went through this series, now has this 2-year certification, and has become empowered and digitally literate. So this is an opportunity here for our students to really feel that sense of efficacy and confidence in understanding how technology works. And when we address and embed digital literacy in all parts of our institutions, we address equity, we increase engagement, and we move towards transformation. And when we move on to the third section, where we try to become less reactive and move towards being proactive, we really understand the importance of shifting the conversation of digital literacy. And rather than focusing on the don'ts and the ante, we move towards empowerment. So what are the knowledge, skills, and dispositions that students need to be really successful in this area? So as you can see from this illustration, more at the K-12 level, we oftentimes have anti-bullying. So we need to shift away from being anti when we're using technology and move towards how to be responsible users of technology, how to be thoughtful, how to really think things through. And when we're looking at more of the post-secondary level, we need to be asking these types of questions of our students, of our faculty members, as well as our communities. So how might we make our communities better and stronger? How might we engage in respectful online conversation and debate? And we know from all of those social media spaces out there, we really need to focus in on this one. And that's all of our responsibilities. And how might we determine valid information and sources? And the timing right now, because many of us are at home and doing our learning, we're seeing all sorts of news feeds coming in. How do we really make sure our students have the opportunity to understand what is accurate information and what is misinformation? We have to engage with social media, with our students, in order to really prepare them for their future and everything about it, to be digitally literate in this space. Here's a great example at the elementary, the K-12 age, where a facilitator is using Twitter to identify the collaborative norms that they've agreed to use in this space. So what are the behaviors for group success? Patience, kindness, respect, etc. This is what we need to be seeing from all of our educators, from all of our communities, recognizing that we need to focus on the positives and shift that conversation. And we also need to rethink some of our traditional views about different ways that students have become engaged. So let's rethink game-based learning. How many of you have heard of esports before? Esports are competitive video gaming opportunities that can drive a spectating audience. So right now you're looking at actually League of Legends in Detroit, the finals. Yes, that's right. People are attending to watch a video game being played. But if we look at it, what it means for students, when you're successful in this space, and this is a space that really engages them, this is where they're using analytics, teamwork, strategy, communication, all of those things. So how do we use this and bring it into our school systems? And when we see that Calgary young man win $1.2 million in the Fortnite World Cup, how do we bring that engagement into the school system? And when we recognize across our country, esports is happening everywhere. It's not coming from at the school level. It is starting with the students. They're the ones bringing their devices. They're organizing, they're on social media space, doing what they love and what engages them. And now more than ever, given this time with many of the extracurricular opportunities being paused, students are still doing this online. How are we capturing this engagement to help them move forward? Because we need to recognize esports and video game play really does support global competency development, from critical thinking, strategy, collaboration, self-directed learning, communication, all of the skills and dispositions we want our students to have. And if we look at the workplace, esports, you can see on here all of the different areas that it supports. So by embracing it into our school system, both at K-12 and post-secondary, we're showing that we recognize that this is an industry that engages our students, but also leads to future careers. So here at Dell, over the summer, we did North American Virtual Conference Series. We brought educators who are interested, both at K-12 and post-secondary, who are interested in starting esports at their schools and institutions. So we did a series, online series. We had leaders in this space do keynotes talking about how they got it started at their schools and institutions. We did breakout sessions where we dove into some pretty tough topics around diversity and inclusion. And then, of course, we wanted to make sure we heard from our students. We wanted to have that student voice to really understand what they wanted, what they needed, and how we can support. And from this, we worked with all of these school esports leaders to help them to develop their esports business plans, because recognizing going forward this fall, this was the only thing that's happening. So we now have schools and institutions working on their esports programs. We have a Discord channel where we're talking and networking and really making sure we're doing this in a responsible way. And again, thinking about how addressing engagement, student engagement, can really help keep our students where we want, can really help keep our students engaged at school through a tough time and help our transformation. And this leads us to our final topic in digital literacy, and that's being inclusive. And this is where we really have to recognize the importance of including everyone when we use technology. Equity of access, equity of devices, equity of having a digital literate education. Everything needs to be inclusive. And in the last one, I just spoke about esports. But what many of you may have seen is I couldn't really address equity there because that was something that is a bit lacking in that area. And that's why we have responded at Dell with Girls Who Game. Our Girls Who Game program is a partnership with Dell, Microsoft, and Intel, and addresses 3 pillars. A girl-centric ecosystem, recognizing we need to work on girls and help build their confidence and self-efficacy. Authentic application, meaning that they have STEM development and those global competencies that are so important. And we need to help them with mentorship opportunities so that they have the opportunity to meet and work with a mentor to help them build their confidence. So last year, this is what Girls Who Game looked like. This is a snapshot from Vancouver. We had a number of districts able to meet up and really show their stuff with the program. But now, of course, since March, this is what it looks like. But we have shifted. We were agile and nimble and able to move into the online environment and still keep bringing underserved girls across the country with the opportunity to engage with each other, learn in a fun game-based learning method. And so we have the girls using asynchronous video tools to talk to each other and to connect, because that's what they were lacking during this time. We focused a lot on our global competencies, making sure that our girls had the opportunity to collaborate, communicate, use a lot of those critical thinking skills, even if they were at home. And then we asked the women of Dell, Microsoft, and Intel to act as mentors. So even though we were unable to be face-to-face, we created video stories of women in STEM. And then we also had virtual mentors go into their club times virtually and be able to talk to the girls. Grow. Now, what the young ladies had to do was actually create a school and community of the future, and this was all linked to our UN Sustainable Development Goals. And so they had to do all online. They had to be able to pitch it. They had to work together as a team in this online space and build a 5-minute pitch in video and give it back to us and the judges. So we were it was just incredible to see that all of these young ladies, these teams across the country, were able to contribute because they really wanted to do something that was worthwhile and intentional, and they felt included. And not only that, in addition to building their schools and communities of the future, we introduced them to a safe way to do esports in Minecraft Education Edition. So the girls had the opportunity to play off against each other, get that competitive feel, so that when they hit the high school years and start to make their way into post-secondary, it opens up their world to the different opportunities that are available to them as an extracurricular team, as well as a career opportunity in many different ways within the industry. So our ladies who've been through the program had an opportunity to become level 2 junior mentors. And their role was to give back to the community and to make it a stronger place and to focus on their leadership skills. And we gave them a variety of opportunities to try this out. They could choose how they wanted to give their leadership back. Probably one of the most exciting one was Minecraft Education Edition was actually putting out some esports games in beta. And before they were even released, they gave them to our girls, the junior mentors, who had the opportunity to go and play them in beta, find all the bugs, document it, and share it back with the Minecraft and Microsoft team. So how authentic an opportunity was that for these young ladies who would not usually have a chance like this? So it was an incredibly exciting experience, especially during a really challenging time. And not only that, each of our junior mentors were given a one-to-one mentorship opportunity with some of our senior mentors from Dell, Microsoft, and Intel, and even some of the women from the school district stepped forward because they recognize that need to continue to build that relationship capital with these young ladies and make sure that they were included. So this is an example of how digital literacy can really be collective, pervasive, activist, and especially inclusive. We can do that. And if we focus on equity, if we focus on engagement of our students, that is what will really help us get to transformation. So my call to action is this. It's really important as we look forward to initiate and support ongoing professional learning, making sure that your educators, your students, your community all get the necessary support that they need to be in a student-centered learning space, either at school, the institution, or if they're learning from home. Also, the next part is to offer authentic online learning to all staff and students. We can help with hardware literacy with courses like Tech Direct. These are available, so please use them. Share them with students, share them with faculty so that they can see and become empowered by knowing how to actually work with their technology. And I really want you to think game-based learning. This is what engages our students. And if we want digitally literate students who aren't hiding out in the basement, we need to bring it out into the open. We need to shine a light and correct some of these toxic things that we sometimes hear about. And we need to make it a more positive space where we can engage our students and help them move forward into a new industry that is really exciting for them. And finally, to support equity, be inclusive. Really, I welcome you to join us with the Girls Who Game mission. If you would like to be a mentor, we would love to have your support, have you as part of our team, because we have a lot of girls who could use that extra social relationship capital that many of them are missing right now. And this is how we build towards a digitally literate society. So again, being collective, pervasive, and activist and inclusive is how digital literacy can really be addressed and support all of our students. So although I am looking forward to 2021, I know we can finish up 2020 strong. So my name is Katina Popolkis. I am the education strategist for Dell Technologies. I would love to talk to you more. I'm on Twitter at @Popolkis, or you can reach me by email. And at this point in time, I would love to take some questions. Please enter any questions that you have in the chat, and happy to talk further.